Well, good morning, Kelowna and Victoria. Quite smoky here still. When I look across the lake, Ken, it's quite something. And I think, first of all, Ken and I both wish we want to recognize and offer our caring thoughts to all that have been affected by these wildfires, because it's been a big event here in Kelowna, and I'm sure you folks in Victoria have heard all about it. It was pretty frightening Thursday night when I looked across the lake and saw the flames coming down the hills. It's not a pleasant thing to see.
Very, very, very scary.
Yeah. And so our thoughts go out to folks that are affected, and I know that a lot of the Garden Show listeners have been affected, and we just want to give our thoughts to them.
Absolutely, yeah.
But now, let's get back to normal, and it is Tips and Plants of the Week time.
You betcha.
Well, my tip of the week is, with the cooler temperatures around the corner, it'd be a good time to do some fall gardening, including transplanting existing plants and installing new ones. All sorts of other things to do, too. We'll be talking about that as time goes on. But this cooler weather means a change in our attitudes towards whether we dig something out or not dig something out. You know, in the heat, it's not a good thing.
Yep, you bet.
My plant of the week is the Aptenia cordifolia, the trailing red Livingston daisy. And I've got some planted in my window box on my greenhouse shed. Mm-hmm. And boy, oh boy, does it ever grow. It's long and flowing, and it's blooming, and it's great. It's a variegated succulent type of annual vine. So that's my plant of the week, is the Aptenia cordifolia.
There you go. I also have a tip and a plant, and my tip of the week is that this is Iris month. Of course, August is the month when you do your iris divisions, and it's just a note to take advantage of that, because when your irises get big and old and kind of get too wide, then they bloom, but they just don't bloom consistently. You might get maybe 5 or 6 blooms out of a patch that's 3 or 4 feet across. Can you imagine if you could do the divisions now? You can get about 5 or 6 blooms per square foot. So what you do is take those divisions, if you have large ones, you take the healthiest ones from around the perimeter and move them to a new location, or just dig them all up, clean it all up, put in a little bit of fresh soil, and put just a nice healthy chunk back in the middle, about anywhere from 12 to 18 inches in diameter, and that'll give you a beautiful show for next year, and they really respond, that's for sure. So that's the best way to get nice irises. Now, my plant of the week this week is Liatris, and Liatris, interestingly enough, is not blooming right now, or at least any of the ones that have been blooming are finished or just finishing, and it's just something to note is not to cut it down too early. Because something that I've found is I leave mine as long as I can. I just kind of let them go, and they get kind of brown stems. But, the birds just love the Liatris seeds, and they just swarm on those plants. So I love to leave the Liatris up right to the end of August to let the birds get their feed, and it's just kind of a nice touch. All right, that's my tips and plants for this week. Remember to check growercoach.com and Grower Coach on YouTube.
And that is wise advice, Ken. I enjoy your Grower Coach YouTube channel very much. It's very cool. And once in a while, I get to appear on it.
You were on it many, many times, actually. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Especially your grapes. Oh, my God. So have you actually started harvesting your grapes?
I have. The grapes, Ken, it's a race between me and Donna and the birds.
Oh, yeah. So the birds actually wait until they're ripe?
Whoa, they wait. They know exactly when to attack my grapes. They've got little tiny brains, but they seem to know this, right?
Those bird brains are smarter than they look.
Anyway, sparrows, mostly sparrows, but starlings flock in there. When the starlings come in, the grapes are done.
Oh,
the sparrows are very, they're like surgically removing the grapes.
Yeah.
Starlings just gobble. They're done.
Eat it all
See
up.
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm quite fascinated right now with how the days are shortening up, and the smell that as I came out of the house this morning, and fortunately now there's not much smoke in the air, but there has been. But I haven't been able to smell that August cooling feel. The nights are starting to cool down.
Yeah.
It got down to 10 above last night here in Kelowna, and
it's really nice.
10 above is still quite mild, but on the other hand, it's quite a bit cooler than it has been. Most nights are like 15 to 18 at night here.
Yeah.
And so 10 above, you get that fall smell kind of coming on, eh?
Yeah.
Everything about the fall, I love. I love the feel. I love the weather. I love the gardening. I love the color, the fall color. I love all that stuff. I just don't like the idea that around the corner,
Yeah.
especially here in the Okanagan, around the corner, we're going to get our first frost by
Yeah.
middle of October is generally when you get that first.
Could be
solid
anywhere
frost.
from there, till the beginning of November.
Oh yeah,
somewhere in
sometimes it'll hold off,
Yep.
but when you have a greenhouse and you got dozens of tropical plants outside the greenhouse.
Yeah, they have to come in.
That are going, what's going on here? It's really getting chilly
Things
at
are
night.
changing. Yeah, and the plants respond to that. And I find plants like beans, especially like my pole beans right now. Oh my God, they're just like they're in heaven.
They're coming on, yeah.
Well, last I would say probably 4 weeks because it started cooling off at night about 3-4 weeks ago. We started to get those a little bit chill, a little bit of chill at night, and that's what those beans like. And so they've just burst into bloom. And we're, the trick with beans is you have to continuously harvest them, because if you stop harvesting them, they just seem to stop producing, right? Yeah. So you just keep on picking, and they'll keep on producing. And so we've been getting bags and bags and bags and bags, and of course, we've been treating them and just giving that blanching.
Yeah, you blanch them, yeah,
and then freeze them, put them in
the freezer. Do you pickle them?
Not yet, but that's potentially coming up. I have to talk to Wendy about that.
I haven't tried drying beans yet.
Yeah, well, they sort of dry automatically, right? That's all the ones you don't
everything.
Get to.
Everything I have, I'm drying.
Yeah.
We tried bananas. And that worked out okay. Tomatoes, cucumbers, no. Never again will I do a cucumber.
Yeah.
It's like when you dry a cucumber, you're eating like a little piece of cardboard.
Yeah, there's nothing.
There's
left.
no flavor. There's nothing there. It's quite something. Yeah. But I guess if you took that, it's one way of preserving food, of keeping it for a long period of time. And we are going to switch gears on the cherries. We're not going to do as much canning.
Right.
It's a pain in the butt sometimes compared to drying. I mean, drying, you just pit them and wash them.
Yeah, and I like the way you're doing them too, without slicing them.
Yeah.
That's really they've got a little bit of softness, and yet they're chewable. But oh my God, are they flavorful?
Yeah, and what we've been doing with them is freezing them. So that
drying them and
drying them, freezing them, drying them, and then freezing them, and so you're not relying on the drying process to preserve them. Even though, like raisins can sit in a container, a Tupperware container, sealed off for months, and they're still raisins, right?
Yeah.
And they don't go moldy or anything. I don't quite understand that, why they don't go moldy. But anyway, okay, we are going to go to the phone lines because we've got our friend Dominic on the line. Dominic Ramponi. Good morning, Dominic.
Hey, how are you guys doing on this beautiful, kind of smoky day?
Yeah, we are
pretty good, yeah.
Really doing well, and appreciate the fact we're getting back to somewhat normality.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, but it's always a pleasure to see stuff growing, and but all good things come to an end. And it looks like this is going to be our last weekend selling cherries up in East Kelowna.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Okay, well, this is a good advice to give to people because you've got some beautiful product there.
Yeah, we're quite pleased with how we're growing, and now we're doing some summer pruning and some heading off some of the big branches on the orchards and doing a lot of healthy stuff to make them better for next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Lot of acreage of cherries out there. Were any of your areas affected by the fires, Dominic?
No, we went to, or one of the orchard managers went out to one of our orchards on McKinley, and the fire went around it, obviously because it's probably irrigated, but we didn't have any damage there. But the plant did get evacuated for a few days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Our plant out on the highway because the fire came like over the dump towards there, so nobody got hurt and nothing got damaged. But it's always a bit frightening what Mother Nature can do.
Yeah, and to shut the plant down and then open it back up again is quite the exercise, isn't it?
Well, yeah, so we also had to evacuate some of the people that were in the housing behind the plant. So it was graciously enough that apparently we evacuated them to Big White, and it was gracious enough that Big White had rooms available to house those people. But
It is amazing how
very
the
nice.
community came together with everything the way it happened. I mean, it's very sad for many, many people. It doesn't matter how much we came together. There's still some real grief and sadness out there, people losing their properties and whatnot.
Totally.
However,
we personally got evacuated out of a condo on Old Ferry Wharf Road, and we went to Sammy J's on the west side to have dinner. And the waitress overheard us talking that we had been evacuated, and then when we asked her the bill, she comes over. She says, "No, since you guys been evacuated, we're picking up the meal for you."
Oh man, that gives a lump in my throat. That's really cool. Very
I
cool.
know, and then we felt bad because obviously they probably weren't as busy as other things. So the next day I brought them some cherries and gave them to the manager, and it was like I gave him $1 million. He was so thankful that we thanked him for what he did.
You bet.
And so everybody come together. But yeah, we still have some cherries. We only have some smaller ones of Lapins and Sweethearts, and they're by the box only because you'd have to process them. They're very good eating, but they're smaller. So,
so that's
what we have.
so this is it. Sunday will be your last day,
or maybe Monday morning, depending how sales go tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you guys,
Donna and I
supporting agriculture.
You betcha. We will always continue to do that, Dominic, and Donna and I just may come out and see you today or tomorrow.
Okay, that'll be honored. I'd like to shake your hand before fall comes.
You betcha. Okay, take care, man.
Have a good one. Bye.
Thanks, Tom. Take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah, we've been drying cherries like crazy, and I just highly recommend it. And as I was saying, you can freeze them and then get them back again. There's no problem with that, and so you can store them for a long time. You could probably, we haven't tried storing them without freezing them, and I suppose we should try a few and see how they make out, but I don't want to ruin any because they're so good. I hate to ruin any.
Well, you put them in jars, don't you, and seal them in a jar?
I guess
because then if you have a
or freezer bags,
manage the humidity, right? Because if you can put them in there when it's quite dry, when but you have to know. I'm not going to pretend that I know. I'm just because I don't really know. But it just seems like that would be the thing to do, is get them to that perfect point and then seal them so that they don't, they're not going to gain anymore.
Don't know what the perfect point is, Ken.
No.
And if you got a little bit larger cherry and a little bit smaller cherry, the idea, I'm learning. This is a learning curve, and the idea. In particular with grapes, we'll be doing some grapes today, and the grapes you really want to get them consistently the same size. Right. If you have a big grape and a little grape, the little grape obviously is going to dry faster. So I've got 4 trays on my drying thing, and I'll size them, separate. Here's this tray, smaller ones. This tray, bigger ones.
Same with cherries.
Well, the cherries are more consistently the same size. Yeah. I mean, there are two different grades. We are past our break time, and we've just got the signal from Grinder that we got to take a short break, and that's what we'll do. We'll be back with the Garden Show after this short break. Well, today in the Okanagan, it's 14 hours and 37 minutes and 58 seconds long. It is, it's 2 hours and 31 minutes shorter than the summer solstice when it was at its longest day in June 21st, this past June 21st.
I'm enjoying getting up in the morning and it's dark. You
enjoy that?
Yeah. Oh, for sure, because it just means the season's changing, and if the sun comes up at 4, then I start waking up at 4. So it's nice now. Sun doesn't come up until almost 5:45 or something now.
It is pleasant in the morning, Ken. It is so pleasant. Great time of the day to get up and do some work in the garden. It's cool, in the Okanagan, we really enjoy this reprieve because it's been so darn hot here.
Yeah.
And hopefully this is going to help with suppressing these fires and getting them under control. Yeah. I guess they're pretty much at bay now, but it's still dangerous.
Yeah. There's still lots of people who are out and are waiting patiently as they're controlling the fire burning underground, right? So it's very, very dangerous out there. And lots of areas are still getting it, but they're getting it, and it's fabulous, and the temperature is helping. And but this week it's supposed to get hot again, so 34 or something Monday, Tuesday. Then cool after that.
Yeah. Our good friend Grinder wants to say something.
Yeah, so we'll have a special press conference from the emergency services people after the show. It's starting about 10, so stay tuned for that. That's here locally.
Perfect.
Oh, perfect. That'll give us an idea of what's going on. Mm-hmm. But I was going to say, Ken, you were talking underground fires, okay?
Yeah.
I've done a lot of work in the aftermath of fires because I do the tree evaluation for insurance companies, right? So the fascinating thing is, like, you get a big ponderosa pine that has been burnt right to the ground, right? Toast, like. And you can follow the tunnels.
The roots,
the root tunnels.
Mm-hmm.
The ground is caving in because the roots have been burnt.
They're gone,
and these were living roots. These weren't dead trees. These were alive. That's the heat that's involved in those fires.
Yep.
Sometimes ponderosa pines in particular survive the fires. They have this thick
they're
bark.
Very fire resistant to a point.
Yeah, but not when it's just a firestorm like we've had with. And it's like when you have a bellows that you've got a forge and you're working metal and you want the forge to get hotter. You pump the bellows and the air goes in, the oxygen goes in and makes it hotter, right?
Yeah.
Makes it burn hotter. That's exactly what's happened here with the wind.
Yeah,
but let's not talk too much about the fires because that's been talked about and talked about and talked about. And we're hopefully through the worst of it, and we can get through it. But we do invite your calls, 250-862-2525 to get through to us here locally, 1-888-780-4273 to get through to us from the Victoria listening area or anywhere online if you're listening to us online. The interesting thing, I was going to have my plant of the week as being a new Sansevieria that I've got from Dwayne. When I didn't get it from Dwayne Amandrew, but my good friend Carl was up to see Dwayne, and he got a few plants from Dwayne, and one of them was a Sansevieria francesii. Sansevieria francesii. It's a snake plant, typical Sansevieria, but it's known. This one here is the spike Sansevieria, spiky Sansevieria, fascinating plant, and the Sansevieria has been reclassified as a Dracaena, and we've talked about this before, but I'll expand on that a little bit. I got some stuff from the internet why they did it, and the reaction from Sansevieria lovers.
Yeah,
it's interesting with plant lovers how they don't like to be told that this has changed. They've been Sansevieria all my life. For 200 years, it's been Sansevieria. How dare you make it Dracaena? Yeah, now, that's just awful,
Yeah.
So,
but it is. It's one of those things that happens, and they want it to be as accurate as possible. But that doesn't mean you still can't call it Sansevieria, because the whole concept is that when you say a plant name, whatever it is, you're just trying to get across what plant it is.
That's right.
And if you successfully get that across to whoever it is you're talking to, then it's a success. So whatever it is, it doesn't matter. If they know what you're talking about, then it's a success.
I've got a couple of things written down here that's going to be fun to talk about. But first of all, we want to go to the phone lines. We've got Andy on the line. Good morning, Andy.
Good morning. I just have problems with my geranium pots. And typically they're so tough they can handle everything. But this year, and I think it's probably a fungus or something in the soil, they're just all spindly. They don't have. They look sick, and even the Dracaenas in a pot with them are just spindly. They're kind of yellowy, and just not happy.
And in your mind, you haven't changed any of your methodology at all. You've done the same thing you've always done.
Yeah, and I mean it's new potting soil.
Okay.
Like it's the stuff from Costco, the big bags of potting soil. And so I'm just wondering if I put that potting soil into the garden, or is that should not be anywhere?
I don't think I would hesitate to suggest it might be the potting soil. I mean, it could be, but if there was an issue with certain shipments or suppliers of potting soil, we'd know about it. We'd hear more about it. I think you've got an individual issue going on here, and so the potting soil is new. Have you kept your feeding program? I mean, feeding is so important.
Well, I started off, and I usually feed it every Sunday.
Okay.
And
you feed with what, 2020 or
2020?
Yeah. Okay.
And so I did that for years before, and then this year it's just.
Are you located in the Okanagan, or are you in Victoria?
I'm out on Lakeshore Road.
Lakeshore Road.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
I was just going to say, are those plants from previous years, or are they all new plants?
No. Last year I had some that my father-in-law wanted to carry over, and so he, I had them in a paper bag and whatnot. And I don't know if that's where the fungus came from, because when I put those out, and I went and they all survived, and I put one in each of the geranium pots, and then they were all kind of sick,
Andy?
even last year. And then I know fungus can carry over easily if you don't sterilize your pots or something.
Well, it can, and there are fungal problems like Rhizoctonia, Pythium, and things like that affect geraniums, and generally it's tied in with maybe a little overwatering, that sort of thing. But look if you wouldn't mind doing this, because I don't mind you doing this, if you dig one out of the pot, dig a typical plant out of the pot, out of the container, and just come by my home with it. I'm close to you. I'm on Rhonda Crescent.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm in the book, so my address is in the book.
Okay.
If you still have a book.
Well, we'll find it.
Or you can find it online. I don't know. I still have a phone book, but I think this is probably the last year that the phone books are going to be out. But anyway, Andy, if you wouldn't mind doing that, because Ken and I think we both need to see this thing to really pin something down for you, because it's just odd.
The biggest clue is if the Dracaena that's in there is also affected, you've got completely different species being affected, so it's likely abiotic. That means it's something to do that's environmental and potentially less of a disease thing. But it can always be overwatering, and that's what I always ask is, do you feel like this pot is predominantly wet or predominantly dry? And that's sometimes a question that depending if somebody says, well, it seems like it's always wet, and I'm watering it, it's automatically watered, so it gets tons of water. Then those root diseases, as Don was saying, can build up, and sometimes they will cross. Species, because especially Dracaenas don't like to be soggy wet.
No, but Andy says that he's pretty much carried on with the same program he's done year after year. So let's just have a look at that, Andy. I don't mind you bringing. I'm going to be home all afternoon today.
Okay.
So if you want to pop by and bring your sample, I will be happy to have a look at it.
All right. I'll bring you a whole pot. How's that?
That's good. Yeah. Perfect. Okay.
All right.
Okay, sir.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for the call. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Now, we went a little long on our last thing, so we're going to have to take this break. We've got a couple of callers waiting, which we appreciate very much. But we're going to take this short break, and we'll be back after this short break with the Garden Show. Well, here we are back with you, and we have a couple of callers here. We're going to be joined by Ariel first, and then we have Dan Bruce joining us. Ariel, good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. I have two questions. Okay. Rudbeckia triloba, the brown-eyed Susan. Okay, so they're getting a little tired looking, and I do deadhead them regularly, but I'm wondering, do you just keep on deadheading until they don't bloom anymore and then cut them right down?
Yeah, basically. But yeah, I would just keep looking for the buds, any buds that look like they're going to come through to fruition. And so, as long as they're producing buds, they're going to continue to bloom. I just snip out individual stems. So when a stem has done its thing and it's completely finished, it's produced 3, 4, or 5 blooms, whatever it had, then I just snip that and remove that entire stem. And then so that stem goes away, and potentially they can push up new stems. And so feeding sometimes with just a little bit of nutrient of some sort, which can be literally any kind of fertilizer, can, again, sometimes stimulate them to push up another flush. So, if you just let them kind of finish off, they will finish off. But if you kind of keep them stimulated by feeding a bit and removing those entire flower stems once they're finished, it can sometimes keep them going a little bit longer.
That's kind of what I thought, and I just wanted to check it out. The other one is my the Echinacea purpurea powwow. Oh my God, this guy is up to 3.5 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm so. Every time I look out my window, I see it, and I just don't want to cut those flowers off. But I'm sort of going, well, okay, do I or don't I? And does it really strengthen up the plant if I start cutting them off now?
Well, it always is in the eye of the beholder, right? Is that some plants, like Echinaceas, produce that sort of a huge cone-looking head on it, which is actually can be quite attractive. And depending on how vigorous they are, some of these hybrids like the powwow are ones that are really quite good performers. And so you may not have to deadhead them. You might just want to just do a little bit of staking to kind of keep the plant sort of looking upright. And if they finish off blooming, say, by first or second week in September, then you want to have all those beautiful cones sticking up that you can enjoy those right till winter. So, I kind of like them.
Oh, I do too. And but I'm noticing on a few of the flowers now, just in the last couple of days, they've started to really turn brown. Just a couple of them really turn really dark brown right now. And I'm thinking, well, I wonder if I should go out there and just deadhead those ones.
Do your housekeeping, Ariel. Tidy them up.
And just to let you know, too, my delphiniums, believe it or not, are roaring back for a second bloom.
Oh, nice.
Fabulous.
Yeah, they will often do that if you cut them back,
Oh, awesome, yeah.
Ariel, we got to move on. We've got a couple of callers waiting for us, and we always
problem.
appreciate hearing from you.
Yeah,
Thank
fabulous.
Thank you, dear.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for calling. Bye-bye.
And we've got Dan coming on, and we've got Lee following him. So, Dan, Bruce, good morning. And you've come through unscathed, I hear.
Well, yes, I count myself extremely lucky.
You bet, you bet. We worried about you.
Well, I also was concerned about people who were not so lucky.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We mentioned that at the beginning of the show, Dan. It's tough on a lot of people out there.
But when you go through the areas that have had fires and burned off, and I'm not talking about urban and suburban place. I'm talking about out on the wild. It's quite amazing what survives.
Yes, and how quickly certain things come back.
And I've done a little bit of looking, but not too much. I want to do some more sort of investigation about how things like bulbs survive, because at this time of year the bulb flora has essentially come up and done its thing and died down again. So a forest fire going over the top is going to take out the dead leaves in a second, but the bulb underneath should still be good.
Well, just case in point, when I was up at Slave Lake in 2011 doing my work up there after the fires, I was there about 3 weeks after the burn. Yeah. And there were perennial plants, like herbaceous border plants, that were starting to emerge again from the ground.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just totally blackened, nothing left of the house, nothing left of anything. And here the Rudbeckias were pushing through, and it was amazing to see.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it can be quite amazing, because that White Rock Lake fire, there were quite large trees and Saskatoon bushes burnt all the way around them, but they themselves were fine.
Well, we were just saying, Ken and I were just chatting about the fact that the ponderosa pine, for instance, has that thick bark that's almost made for burns, But not firestorm burns, but burns,
Yes.
But just one last thing before we let you go. We got one more caller before the break here. But Dan, thank goodness our dear property out at Fintry has been, saved.
Fintry has survived.
Mm-hmm.
They're still apparently under evacuation order.
Mm-hmm.
When that's lifted, I will go and have a walk through.
Yeah.
And I do indeed hope that there's been no looting out there.
Oh,
because
man.
that does pose a problem.
You betcha.
Although the RCMP do their best, they cannot be in all places at all times.
That's right.
Anyway.
Well, Dan, we're going to have to move on. We've got a caller before the break. But look, our thoughts were with you all the way through this, both for your personal property and for Fintry. And we're just so thankful that you got through this personally without too much issue.
Well, I can assure you, so am I.
Yeah, you betcha, man. Look, we're going to have to run,
very
but
much.
we will see you next week again, and we appreciate your call.
Okay.
Thanks, Ken.
Thanks, Dan.
Bye
Take
for
care.
now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And, yes, we've got one more caller here that we can talk. We have Lee joining us. Good morning, Lee.
Oh, good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
I have a question about spider mites in my pyramid cedars. And about a month ago, I was just invaded with them. So I did the dilution of water in Dawn, and I sprayed each time I seen a web come up. Now, unfortunately, I don't know if I'm doing something wrong, but where I have sprayed, it has turned brown. Now, is that the damage from the spider mites, or do you think the spray?
Well, first of all, Ken and I are both sort of shaking our heads. We don't think you have spider mite.
Oh.
Spider mite on cedar trees, if it's showing webs, you're going to have a totally brown, very discolored tree. Spider mite on cedar trees, the sign for that is if you look closely at the foliage, it'll be mottled. The foliage will be mottled because they suck the juices out of it. And then you get your magnifying glass out and you look closely and you'll see the two-spotted mite or the McDaniel mite or one of the mites on that foliage. They would never show a web. What you're seeing there is just regular garden spider webs, which love to be in cedar trees.
Oh. Huh.
So I would just ignore those webs. Now, what you've sprayed with might be phytotoxic to the plant. So.
Yeah, well, it's common that these soap sprays, insecticidal soaps, that sort of thing, will burn a plant, particularly on the sunny side, because the sun, it sort of magnifies through the soap sprays and will quite badly burn plants. They will generally recover from it, but it is it's common to see spray burn from soaps. Like it's funny that it's not toxic to people, but it's actually quite toxic to plants. Yeah.
Okay. And one other quick question. I have gotten some seeds from my neighbor's Athelia marshmallow plant. Do you know what I'm... Altheaea.
Oh, Althea. Yeah.
Anyway, my question is, I've taken off all the ones that have dried up, put them in an envelope, and I want to start them in the spring. Now, each little pod has a whole bunch of seeds. Do I have to separate that, or can I put one pod in by itself in different places in the starting?
You don't have to separate them, but, Lee, I would suggest that you leave them outside over the winter.
Oh.
Because I think they need to be stratified. They need to be have that cool weather to initiate seed sprouting. Would you suggest that's correct, Ken, on Althea?
Yeah. Well, again, depending on the exact variety, and that's why I was just double checking that. So because we don't have the exact botanical name.
Right.
But you say it's marshmallow is what it was called?
Yeah, nicknamed marshmallow. And then she's got two. One is called a Mara sylvestris, and the other one is a primarily blue. There's two of them they're both different colors, but they're just gorgeous, and the honeybees just love them.
Okay, yeah. So those likely what you would be doing is they're a little bit tender in the. Are you in the Okanagan area?
Oh yeah. yeah, right here in Kelowna.
Yeah, so they're going to be just a little bit tender in this area. So what you may want to do is just keep the seed maybe even in the refrigerator or something from now through till spring, and then seed it out in the springtime.
Oh, I see.
And then have it sprout, and then plant them outside. Probably get them started inside, and then move them out at that time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I've had a really tough time looking that plant up. They call it marshmallow. They call it Rose of Sharon and hollyhocks. And
and it's very confusing. But this particular one is native to sort of northern Africa areas where it's wet. So they're kind of a marshy plant. So they like moisture. So that would be the key is, like I say, just get them started indoors. Keep them pretty continuously moist. Just cold in the refrigerator. That's fine. That'll keep them fresh through the winter. And then in the springtime, maybe say in March at some point, maybe seed some into a tray and then get them outside. Once the fear of frost is gone, so probably mid-May, and then let them rip and see what happens.
Do I need to keep the seeds moist, you say, like in a paper towel or something?
No, you just let them dry out so that they'll keep best if they're dried first. And then sometimes what I'll do is I'll either put them in a little baggie or something and make sure no moisture gets in there. So keep them really nice and dry. Once they're thoroughly dry, then they'll store better. And
but
I would try...
separate those little pods because there's a whole bunch of seeds. I can just put one pod and don't need to break them apart.
You can separate them in the spring.
And what I would do, too, just for fun, is I would do 2 baggies, and I'd drop a couple pods into one, put it, do like I said, put it in the fridge, take the other and a couple pods in that, and just put it in a cupboard somewhere. And you can drop a little piece of paper with the name of it in it so you remember what it is.
Good plan.
Yeah.
And then, give them both a try and see which one's the best. Only because we're not sure about the winter hardiness on this one in our climate. Yeah.
Okay, dear.
Okay. Well, that's great. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for the call. We appreciate it. Take care.
Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
And we are now going to take a short break. We'll be back with The Garden Show after this short break. So I've just gone through with Ken the whole Sansevieria dilemma.
The dilemma,
and it happened to me years ago when Alyssum saxatile compactum Alyssum, the perennial
basket of
gold Alyssum that blooms in the spring, yellow, was always Alyssum to me.
Yeah,
perennial Alyssum, and then it was changed to Orinia. Orinia.
But I think if you say perennial Alyssum, people will know that's what that is because that's what it was called. Just like we were just talking about Sansevieria now being a Dracaena. If you say Sansevieria, people will know what you're talking about rather than the Dracaena. But Orinia now is the name of this.
Right.
Well, and I'm not even sure if they're not going to change that too. So these things change. They're trying to get the name as close as possible. Yep. So, like I said, when it comes to botanical names or any name for a plant, you're just trying to get across to another person, what plant you're talking about. And if you can get it across to them so they understand, and nowadays with the internet on your phone, you can look it up to make sure that's what it is, because with a common name, you never know what you're going to get. So find the common name that matches the plant and then show somebody, this is what I'm talking about. And then they go, oh, yeah, it's a prayer plant. Yeah, that's right.
But isn't that what makes this whole exercise interesting, Ken?
It's very interesting. And Mahonia is another one, is now a barberry. So how do you,
that's right. You've got to go to the phone lines.
Grape,
got to get to the phone lines. We love our callers. We really encourage you to give us a call. Sharon, good morning from Victoria.
Hi.
Good morning.
Yes, I have an amaryllis that does not want to die.
That's good.
I asked a long time ago for your email advice on amaryllis, but for some reason it wouldn't come through on my email.
Oh, dear.
Anyway, I haven't watered this thing for, at least a month, maybe 2. And it still has 3 foot or better long fronds. And they're as green as grass. There's not even a yellow tip on them.
Right.
Should I just cut it off?
Well, yeah,
I
it's coming. It's coming now, dear. It's coming to the point, Sharon, where you can, in time, to literally take it out of the pot, shake all the soil off the roots. Don't cut the roots, but shake all the soil off. You could even wash the soil off and clean it up that way. Cut it back to about 1.5 inches above the bulb. Cut that whole thing off, but 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches above the bulb. Then put it in and then put it in a brown paper bag. Dry it out first, like cure it like an onion, and then put it in a brown paper bag. Put it in the cooling part of the fridge, not the freezer, but in in the crisper. And leave it there for a few weeks. Leave it there for a few weeks, and then take it back out after a few weeks. Put it back into the pot with new potting soil. Give it a good soaking, and then don't water it again until you see something grow. Okay, don't water it after you put it in the pot. Soak it, and then just let it go until you start seeing some growth. Then you can then you can sparingly water it. Mm-hmm.
Should it be in light or?
Oh, by that time, yes, it's in a nice bright spot. Yeah.
Yeah, they like bright light. Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, I just the bulb does not seem to be growing, but it doesn't seem to be getting smaller either.
No, as long as those
I just don't
leaves,
understand.
It's the leaves have to grow, and they don't change all that much. They're not like some other bulbs that we have where the bulb size will change a lot. Other than it may actually slightly grow a little bit bigger each year that you have it growing. And I've had some now for about 4 or 5 years, and they just putter along and bloom whenever they want to. I don't do much special about them, but I've got one right now that's got it's going to have actually 4 beautiful big buds on it that are going to bloom. And I didn't really do anything, but I did have it outside. And I think this last, like I said, about 4 weeks, we've had these cool nights where it's been down to about 10 degrees Celsius, and that seems to trigger it for some reason. But
now, Sharon, we're going to have to move on. We've got one more caller before our big break here at the middle of the show.
No, that's lovely. I'll cut it down and do what you've said.
Thank you, dear.
Right away today.
Okay. Thank you for the call. We appreciate it.
I really enjoy your program.
Well, thank you.
And let us know how it works out, too.
Yeah,
Give us an update.
I will. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks for calling.
Phil, you got a couple of minutes here. How you doing?
Hello?
Phil is on the line here. You got a couple of minutes, Phil.
Yeah, question. Good morning. I was calling about planting garlic in the fall in containers. I gave it a rip last year, and everything it didn't work out. I had them outside, so I'm wondering if you could just tell me is it possible, and after I do plant them, when I plant them this fall, how to keep them from being soggy.
Okay, so they
what do I do?
So just tell me what happened. They came up in the spring. Did they survive the winter?
No, well, they didn't. I don't know what happened. Then when I dug down, it looked like there was started growth, but it was just all mush. Okay. Right?
Well,
so I don't know if there was
probably,
too much snow that it was too soggy.
Are you
have them covered more during the winter? I don't know that process.
Yeah. Are you calling from Kelowna?
Yeah.
Okanagan?
I'm calling from
Okanagan.
Yeah,
Okay. So they're in containers above ground. They probably froze. Ken was saying that right off the bat. That's probably what's happened, because if they turned to mush, they probably froze. They're best in the ground, but if you can't have a spot in the ground, then you're going to have to protect those pots like they were in the ground. In other words, put them up against the house on the south side of the building, if possible, and cover them with some insulative material or something. Get some mulch and fill that up to the top of the pots so that there's submerged in mulch or something like that. Because that's really, I'm sure, what's happened to your garlic is it's frozen.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
And the moisture.
We had that real heavy frost in December last year in the Okanagan, and it caused a lot of grief. So I think that's your issue. And we're going to have to move on, but I'll tell you, if you have any more questions, you can give us a call after the break.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.
Yep, thanks for calling.
Bye. Okay.
Bye-bye.
And we are getting ready to say goodbye for the first half of the show, but we got a rip-roaring second half of the garden show here on a semi-smoky day. There's quite a bit of smoke coming in here now. We look across the lake there, and we can still see the hills, but it's foggy. It's very smoky. So Tough times right now in the Okanagan, and but we're getting through it. We will. And we will be back after this short break with more of The Garden Show. Yeah, Ken was asking me what the common name for the Aptenia cordifolia, my plant of the week, and it's trailing red Livingston daisy.
Right.
Trailing red Livingston daisy.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Yeah, and I looked it up a little bit there and just found it's the succulent form. Because there's Livingston daisies are like a different sort of.
And that's
form.
the problem with common names.
It's too many Livingston daisies.
And we were talking about Sansevieria, aka Dracaena.
Yeah.
And I have here's the common names for Dracaena or for Sansevieria. I think I'm with the camp that wants to stay with Sansevieria.
I am too.
Oh yeah. Heck with you guys. We're not going to the no Dracaena. I've always looked at Dracaena as a certain thing. Mind you, Ken, you taught me this many years ago, and you said to really see where genus blend in, like identification of plants, you look at the bloom.
Yeah,
you look at the bloom form.
Yeah, the bloom in the seed, but the bloom more than anything. Yeah, so somebody must have spotted that.
It's that ties in.
Because it's not common to see Dracaenas bloom. At least it hasn't been, because we've grown Dracaenas for years and years and years and years and years, and only occasionally saw one bloom. Yeah. And I remember the one. Do you remember at the back of the greenhouse? We had a huge one. Huge is relative, but it's about 8 or 10 feet high, and it produced a big plume of white flowers. But is that a Dracaena?
They call them cordifolia.
Now they're called cordylines. Yeah,
cordyline. Not cordifolia. Cordylines. Yeah,
cordylines. So it's all changing anyway. But is that ever fragrant? And then we saw, it's got to be still a part of the same family.
Yeah.
Everything's related there.
Common names for snake plant, common names for Sansevieria or Dracaena. Snake plant, viper's bowstring hemp, mother-in-law's tongue, St. George's sword, devil's tongue, and gin's tongue. So there you go. Easy to care houseplants. In fact, the interesting thing is when we were in Australia, the folks we were staying with, Steve and Sue, Steve's job was as a landscaper, and he was more of a hardscaper than a landscaper, but he was, he is a guy that's working with plants and whatnot. Sansevieria, like regular snake plant, is a weed down there. It's like quackgrass here.
Yeah,
they can't get rid of it.
Yeah, there's many plants like that. Just on our YouTube channel, we do get people responding and talking about plants from all over the world. And some of the plants, which we can barely get them to live here, they just barely survive and often freeze out over the winter here in the Okanagan, down in, say, the southern U.S. or even into Central America. They're considered quite a vile weed because they're just totally out of control. Yeah. And it's just amazing. So climate is a big part of that whole thing where you grow, like some people won't grow butterfly bushes because in areas like in Northern California, they're out of control like a weed. Yes. But certain varieties that grow from seed quite easily, that's what you'll find is they grow everywhere. Here, almost none of them grow by seed, or very rarely. Yeah. And now the newer varieties there's a lot of new hybrids coming out, and they don't actually, I've never seen them even produce much for seed. So,
yes, the seeding issue is something else, but the other one that is considered somewhat of a terrible weed or invasive plant is tamarix, but it's not here. I don't find it here. No. It's not an invasive thing. No. Same with Scotch broom. When somebody from the coast comes here and sees us selling Scotch broom,
they think we're crazy.
Satissus in the
Scorparis,
in the nursery, they go, "What are you selling that for?"
And they don't sell them much anymore.
No,
you rarely see that. Yeah. But it is like when you drive down the freeway and you see them just growing everywhere in the wilderness. Well, like heterohelix, right? The English ivy.
Yes, yeah.
Where, again, here in the Okanagan, once they take a foothold, they are tough to get rid of. But
if they're irrigated, if they're out in the bush, they can't
survive in this climate. Yeah. But down in the coastal regions or rainy areas, they are out of control. You go towards Seattle, the entire forest there is just English ivy.
So it all depends on, something is an issue. It all depends on its where it originally came from.
Yeah.
And does it have its natural enemies here?
And they are prone to seeding. It's interesting that each plant has its thing, and I guess here probably Virginia creeper is one of the things that is it gets totally out of control and seeds everywhere, and it's difficult to deal with.
We have Vicki joining us. Welcome to the show, Vicki.
Good morning. How are you today?
We are well.
Good, thanks. Yeah.
Okay, you're not being bothered by the big smoke.
Well, we're inside right now, but I see it's getting smokier by the minute. So, just psychologically, I'm choking.
I can't see the lake today.
Oh yeah,
I know it's pretty thick. Yeah. I have hyacinths, and I've talked to you before about this. I usually buy them and put them in the fridge, and then I force them later in the year. Now, once they're finished, I plant them out in the garden.
Right.
And they don't really come up and flower the way they, like even the ones that have been there for a couple of years. And I'm wondering, instead of buying new ones, should I dig them out and dry them up and put them in the fridge and see if I can get them to...
Hard to force them twice, isn't it, Ken?
Yeah, it's just weird timing thing. So what happens is they get out of sorts. Their timing is all out of whack. When we force a bulb, we're saying, okay, this is winter. Then you're putting them in the fridge, and there's their winter, and so then spring comes, and they start to shoot up and bloom. And so then we want to be, say, putting them outside, say maybe in the month of May or early in the season, so that plant can continue to grow and then go dormant for the summer, because they would normally receive like a warm period first, and then a cold period, and then they would bloom. So it's funny that way that some of these things like tulips, daffodils, and hyacinths, that's their natural cycle. So warm after they're all finished and done and the leaves have died back, they need a warm period and then a cold period. And cold period's what the pros use 13 weeks as a target of cold, just so that they can control the rate at which they grow. They know it's guaranteed it's going to shoot up and bloom after that 13 weeks. So in the in your situation, I think that just by leaving them for a few years, that they would eventually get up.
They'll come around, I think.
Because I've had some like that, and they didn't bloom much for about 2 years, but now they're starting to bloom.
Did the foliage come up in the spring?
I did get foliage.
Yeah, okay, because I was thinking if they weren't deep enough with this last winter, they could have nailed them.
Oh.
Yeah.
How deep are they supposed to be?
Well, I always go 4 to 6 inches on hyacinths.
Oh.
Yeah, get them deep. Same with daffodils and things like that. Tulips, maybe a little less depth, but 4 inches, 4 to 6 inches is not too deep for a hyacinth.
No.
Okay.
No. They always say that 3 to 4 times the width of the bulb is sort of your typical planting depth.
That's good. Well, maybe that's what it is. Maybe they're only just 4 inches, and they were resting in between. But some of them have been in there for 3 years now.
Yeah. Well, maybe they're not deep enough, and you could have the winter freezing the potential to bloom, but it doesn't kill the bulb, so the foliage comes up, but the actual bloom bud or whatever happens there, maybe it got nailed.
Okay, so I should dig them out and bury them deeper.
And you can do that right now. This time of year is perfect time to do it.
Okay. Now, the lady that called about the spiders on the cedars, I have boxwoods, and I was out there yesterday cleaning them off because they were totally covered with this really, really fine mesh of white web. And I just kind of brushed it all off.
Yeah, that's just normal. So that's normal, especially in August. August is sort of a spidery month. Spiders are certain species are on the move at this time of year, so they do what's called ballooning, and that's where the spiders, of course, they'll let out web for a distance, and then when the web gets caught by wind, then they let go and they'll balloon and float for sometimes miles. And that's why around lakes and things, you get a ton of spiders around the lakes. But they also they will build up in the month of August. They land on hedges, that sort of thing. And they're considered a beneficial insect, really, or they're really not really beneficial, not really bad. They just kind of trap other insects. They're meat eaters. They're not plant eaters. So
Right. Well, these webs were almost like a fabric. They were so tightly woven.
Yeah. And that's a species thing, so depending what type of spider it is. With the boxwoods are subject to a spider mite that causes problems, but you just rarely would ever see any webbing on that one.
Okay. My boxwoods are very healthy, so...
Oh, good.
Well, that's good. And good on you, too, because there's certain, I think, varieties or maybe even species. There's a Korean boxwood and there's a British English boxwood. One of those is more susceptible because we've seen some burn from last winter, but not on all of them.
No, mine are fine.
There you go. I'd like to know
mine are about 15 years old.
Yep. I'd like to know exactly what one you have. You probably won't be able to help me with that.
I can take. I just trimmed them actually, so I will take a little sprig and I'll send you a picture.
Well, that might be helpful, but really, getting a name.
Yeah, there are some. There's only a few people I think that can identify the boxwoods by their foliage. I'm pretty good with about maybe 6 or 8 varieties. But
well, there you go.
But that doesn't mean that they're all.
Send it to Ken.
Yeah, I see a lot of different types. I see them often mixed.
Little round leaves, not quite as big as your thumbnail.
Yeah.
Well, it's always worth a try. You can send out a picture if you like. We can have a look. You never know.
Thank you, dear.
Get an assortment of twigs. That would be nice.
You bet. Congratulations on getting your boxwood through. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
We're going to have to take a short break. We've got Donna waiting to talk to us, which we are happy to have her join us when we come back after this short break. We are back with you on a beautiful but semi-smoky day in the Okanagan here. I don't know what it's like in Victoria, but I know that here we're experiencing some smoke still from the wildfires. Mm-hmm. We are having Donna join us. Good morning, Donna.
It's back just as thick as, not quite. The sun's still shining a bit, but it's pretty smoky this morning.
Oh.
Smelly. Ew.
Yeah.
Anyhow, if that's our problem, that's the least of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyhow, fruit flies. Besides, is there any trick besides balsamic vinegar or cider vinegar to get rid of them?
You're talking about the regular fruit flies that go on
in the
fruit,
house, yeah.
Not the spotted winged Drosophila or anything like that.
No. I've been canning in the house and stuff, and they're just terrible.
Yeah, just the fly traps. We used to hang up fly traps. They come in that little tube, and you grab the end of it. And you just pull them out, and it gives you a sticky thing, and you hang them around wherever you're working. And every time you disturb them, they fly up and land on something, and of course it's usually on that sticky thing. So,
good. So you can get them where? Home Depot or Canadian Tire or something?
Yeah, they're like I can't remember what they're called, fly tape or fly. Fly.
I didn't realize you could still get those. But then they're kind of, I guess. But just to get rid of them now that I'm finished doing it, but they're just
there's not much you can do just to clean up every little thing. Don't leave any fruit out at all.
Yeah.
It seems like fruit comes with its own fruit flies. Have you ever noticed that?
They must.
Yeah, it does, because the little eggs are somehow on the fruit when you get them, and so that's where washing the fruit or rinsing it immediately when it comes in is a good idea, and then setting it out to dry a little bit is helpful. But any sign of rotting or the tiniest little thing, and those guys just explode.
But that would be a good idea. Get a bucket of water and do it out on the back deck before you even bring them in the house.
Yeah,
yes,
there's a good plan.
Yep. Around the little guys.
You betcha.
The little eggs are injected into the skin a bit. But I think any of that kind of thing would be helpful for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So just a quick question again about the irises. Can I cut them back like half or something, and then And if I dig them out, do I have to actually dig a hole to put them somewhere else, or just put them on the top of the ground and cover them?
Well, they are super easy to deal with because they're not very deep. You know, if we're talking about especially like German irises, only typically about 2 or 3 inches deep on average. But you dig the whole thing out and set it on maybe a tarp or something. Clean them up. You can remove any weeds or whatever. Find the nicest, healthiest roots. And then in the new location, wherever I'm putting it, I would usually put a little bit of like maybe some composted soil or compost in there, dig it in a little bit, and level it just like in a little depression, maybe about 3 to 4 inches deep. Okay. And then just set like a chunk of it in there, and then I just bury around the sides, and then I sprinkle a little bit over the top of it so it gets between those roots, and then I lightly water it in. And so I kind of like the tops of the little rhizomes there.
Yeah,
still out. I like those to be exposed a bit, yeah. But when you're first planting them, they're kind of wanting to get established. So I know if you just throw them on the ground, they'll sometimes root in and grow. But we want to give them the best opportunity. Okay, so again, that would be filling around the edges. Just not putting them deep.
Okay. Yeah, I've been talking about doing that for about 3 years, so maybe I'll do it this year.
Go for it. I'm the same way. I have so many clumps of irises. Some of them I deal with. Some of them I just keep looking at them thinking, I'm going to do that one this year. But, I don't know.
Sharon,
a lot of work.
Thank you so much for the call. We always appreciate hearing from you. Take care.
Okay, thanks.
Okay,
bye.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
And we've got Scott on line 3. Good morning, Scott.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Hoping enjoy listening to the show, and it's wonderful about everything growing and that and how you do it and everything, but I'm going down the opposite road of trying to kill everything on part of my property.
Okay.
And I humorously, a next-door neighbor, an older fellow, said if he had known that, he would have brought back a bottle of Agent Orange. From
right. Yeah, that works.
Vietnam.
Yeah, right. That works, yeah.
I'm just trying to get rid of everything down the side of the property. And for love nor money, everything keeps growing.
What, are these woody plants or herbaceous plants?
There are some shrubs. They keep coming up. There's plants, there's moss, there's grass. It'd just be nice to have it completely clear. Mm-hmm. And with being environmentally friendly today, they make it a little bit more awkward of using whatever product you can.
Right.
Hot water, put lots of hot water in some areas and that. Didn't do anything. No. You know, it just sort of laughed at me and grew a little more.
Have you got access there to a small machine to be able to physically remove things and clean it all up physically, roots and all that, and physically clean it up, and then put some black poly or something down there, or landscape fabric. But black poly will, if you're not going to grow anything in there, the black poly is ideal to suppress anything trying to grow back up and from roots and things like that. I mean, you almost have to do that, especially if you want to steer clear of anything like glyphosate or something like that.
Okay, using black poly, do I run into the problem of rain problems with drainage?
Yeah, well you do with landscape fabric too, but it's because the fabric, they always say, the water goes right through it. It's like, well, have you ever actually used it? Because it kind of runs off. So it is an issue with any time you put something on the surface. But so not, every I think situation, whether it's on a slope or flat or in a depression or whatever, there's several considerations as to how you do that management for sure.
Okay, well that'll be something for me to start working on, and I'll report back to you this time next year to see how I made out.
Yeah, there you go.
Scott, thank you so much for the call.
Yeah. All right. Keep up good work.
You betcha. Take care.
Bye
bye now.
Bye bye.
I think do we have Sharon on the line?
We still have Sharon on the line.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Hello, Sharon.
We're having a problem with crabgrass overtaking our lawn.
Yes, this is
a big deal right now. Yep. Yeah, that could have been the tip of the week.
Well, it was mine last week.
That was Ken's the week before.
A week before, yeah.
Yeah.
Crabgrass. What can you do?
Just pulling it by hand, unfortunately, is all you can do right now. What they're doing is they're getting into full seed right now, and they only come back from seed. So if you say you want to just kill the plant, well, then it would just shed its seeds, and the seeds would all grow back next year anyway. They don't survive the winter as a plant. They only survive as a seed. So it's a lot of work sometimes, but pulling those little plants out, and I know it's a ton of work, but you pull them all out and get rid of them, get them right off the property, and then but at this point, they may be already starting to shed some seed. Mm-hmm. So then you'll have them next year. So next year, in the springtime, you can contact one of your local spray companies, and they will usually have a product. It's a preventer, so it's crabgrass preventer, and they can apply that in the spring, and they'll know the timing based on your community, hopefully, and they get the right timing, and then you're good to go.
Are you? Where are you located?
In West Kelowna.
Yeah, West Kelowna. Because crabgrass is not as much of an issue down at the coast, is it, Ken? They like the heat. And
Yeah, there probably is a lot worse here. It certainly is. And
so
it
is
survives
it better
the drought.
just to pull them out?
Sharon, would you want to do that? I'll tell
shovel?
you, if you email me for my sheet on crabgrass, it's quite concise, gives you the program. First of all, at this time of year, as Ken said, you want to take a knife and just cut below the crown of that crabgrass and lift it out of the thing. You're going to end up with quite a few bare spots because of that. Then you fill it in with some soil, reseed it right now. You can reseed it. And then in the spring, as Ken said, you could contact one of the folks there that do the commercial spraying. Or you can let your grass grow really quite tall in the spring. And because as June comes, when the crabgrass seed starts to germinate, that tall grass will prevent it from germinating. That was the old. You look up the old gardening books, and that was their control.
That was their only.
That was their control, is to
option.
let the grass grow high, and because it won't. If you'll notice, that crabgrass does not grow in the shade.
How tall is tall?
2.5 to 3 inches. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But get my sheet because it tells you all that stuff.
Okay, I'll email you for that sheet.
You bet.
Okay, appreciate it.
Thank you, dear.
Yep, thanks for calling.
Appreciate the
Bye-bye.
call.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Yeah, the timing on it is really unique because it can be quite variable depending on where you are in the country and what your program. That's why with phenology is a study of how timing based on temperature is used to guide you through certain processes. And temperature is one of the things that triggers plants to flower, so you can always tell when a certain plant blooms. You will know when to apply it. So depending on your area, and so anyway, something to look into in your own community.
I just noticed on the desk here. It's of course it's Phil Johnson's desk mainly, but here is an envelope addressed to Don and Ken Burnett. Or Don and Ken Burnett.
Yeah,
Don
there you
and
go.
Ken, the garden show guys. And there's a little note there to us, Ken.
Oh, nice.
We were talking about hibiscus, and Brian Minter has got begonias and hibiscus on his Vancouver Papers column. And, of course, Brian's a good friend of both of ours, and we appreciate that. And so Maureen Smith gave us this. I don't know when it was sent because I can't see any date on the old postmark doesn't have a date on it anymore. However, I just have seen this, and thank you so much for your participation and sharing that with us. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, there you go.
The date on the paper was August 12th, so it's probably recently. Phil hasn't been hanging on to this letter for too long, I don't think. Anyway, okay.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
250-862-2525 is how you can get a hold of us in town here in Kelowna. 1-888-780-4273 if you're calling from Victoria or Vancouver or anywhere online. We will take another short break here, and we'll be back with The Garden Show after this short break. Well, we're back with you, and one of the wonderful articles that Brian Minter's written here that Maureen Smith sent us in the mail on hibiscus, and the two different types, of course, that are quite common in the gardens, the hibiscus syriacus, or the rose of Sharon, and the hibiscus moischutus, which is the mallow, the hardy mallow. He's got some varieties here, Ken, that I'm really interested in. He's talking about some of the new varieties. Holy Grail, this red variety is called Holy Grail.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a number of them there. So Fascinating read here, and thank you so much, Sharon, for sharing that with us.
Mm-hmm.
We are talking a little bit about today, which is kind of interesting, the fact that they've changed the name of Sansevieria to Dracaena. Well, here's the backlash. As might be expected for a beloved genus, fans of Sansevieria succulents were outraged by the name change. Many enthusiasts vowed to continue calling their snake plants by the former name. This is really heavy-duty gardening. Folks.
It's
power.
Don't cross a gardener.
Don't be crossing a gardener. Their argument was that the name had been the same for over 200 years, so they couldn't be expected to call it something else suddenly like this. I mean, of course not. Anyway, it goes on and on and on. It's quite interesting. Tell you, we've got our good friend Addie phoning in. Addie, are you able to get back into your home?
I'm coming home. I've done my time.
Good for you.
All right.
8 days away. Yesterday at 3:30, my phone pinged and away it went. I said, "Oh my God!" I was sitting at the Legion in West Kelowna having a cold one with one of my friends, and we both rushed home quickly.
Oh, good for you.
It looks like we've never. Nothing happened. Our place is just perfect. Other than the firefighters moved all my patio furniture and my deck furniture out onto the driveway, because that would. So, but other than that, so grateful, so eternally grateful to those guys. They did a wonderful job.
It's just incredible what they've been doing. Because I mean, you don't think of them as, but they do so much preventative work, like any lumber, wood, firewood, and everything against homes. They were physically out there moving. These young people. They're strong, they're energetic, they're enthusiastic, and they're passionate, and we thank them so much. You betcha.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
I don't know what it is that we could ever do for them to repay them.
No.
There's nothing really that we could possibly do except maybe fit in their shoes and see whether we can do it for them.
Yeah. Well, look at the folks that from the west side. I'm just forgetting the area there, but the 13 firefighters lost their homes. It's very, very sad. A lot of sad stories, and as I said right at the beginning of the show, Ken and I are very, very passionate about our feelings towards that. So, Addie, have you got a plant question?
Yeah, a lot of plant questions. my plants that didn't have, and of course, I shut my irrigation off because they were trying to conserve water. Mm-hmm. So my plants are gone for the season. I'm not even going to try to revive them.
Mm-hmm.
It's not worth it. It's just not. I just want to know, my oleander is really looking very sad. It's blooming, but it's looking very sad. Should I take it in now? Should I wait?
Nope.
What do I do for it for the winter?
Well, I cut it back a little bit, I think, just to so you can accommodate it in the house. How is it looking bad? What's it doing?
Well, it just looks a little unhealthy. Like the leaves, some of the leaves have fallen off. It's still blooming some flowers and that, but I think the smoke is affecting it.
I think so.
And I just think without water for probably, I watered everything down really well before I left, but still, let's say 6 days without water is a long time, and it was hot at times, and we didn't get that much rain or anything. So it's just I guess I'm going to bring it into the house.
I don't think you need to bring it in quite this soon, Addie. We got some nice weather. Hopefully the smoke will clear, and we have we got a month and a half or so yet.
And don't cut it back until you're ready to bring it in, because it's going to bloom on those growing tips, and so if you do want to get a little bit more flower out of it, remember that they are quite drought tolerant as far as the plant goes. So they can survive drought. They don't like to be soggy wet. And sometimes, that could be maybe what was going on. Maybe this drying out might actually encourage it to send out some new roots, and it might be a fresh start for it in a way.
You know what? I did keep them soggy wet before I left. So probably, they're probably just being revived right now.
Yeah, so they like to dry between waterings. That's a plant that we were talking about, how some plants become invasive in certain areas. And some of these oleanders actually have escaped out in Southern California and grow along the beside the roads and everything. And so they're growing in a very dry sort of environment, and they seem to like it.
Okay.
Yeah, when we were in Bermuda, playing in a band in Bermuda back in 1972, I've got a picture of me out there with a pair of shears pruning our oleander hedge.
Really?
Yeah.
Nobody ever watered them because
didn't have to water them.
There's no water.
Lucky, we should be so lucky here. The only thing that really survived well is my wild morning glory. I mean, it is just doing gangbusters.
Yeah. You mean the convolvulus, the white
bindweed?
Bindweed.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Does it die away in the winter and then come back again in the spring, or what happens to it? Like, what is its natural way of surviving?
Roots. If you're talking about the bindweed or field bindweed, convolvulus, that's
roots to survive.
It's the roots. It's like quackgrass. The roots survive.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it doesn't matter how much I pull it now if I don't get the roots.
It's always wise to pull it if you see it, but just to keep it kind of nipped back a little bit, because it grows and grows and grows, and the more you let it grow, the faster it grows, because the more leaves it grows, the more energy it has. So always pull it when you see it, and it'll always be there to pull. It'll give you something to do.
See, it's gotten in between some of my shrubs and where you get into.
Oh, yeah.
And, I just don't know how I'm going to be able to stop its growth.
In the 60s, Dad allowed the city. They approached my dad and they said, "In this corner of your property, it's kind of low. Can we bring some soil in there to fill that hole in, because we've got this excess soil from a project we're doing?" And Dad said, "Oh yeah, sure, go ahead." Well, be darned if it was loaded with bindweed. And my job, I was about 17 years old, and Dad says, we got bindweed just crazy growing out in that corner of the property. Could you go out there and start digging it? Like I did quackgrass back then too, same thing. Mm-hmm. Well, quackgrass is a piece of cake when it comes to digging it out compared to bindweed. Quackgrass has a big, thick root that you can recognize and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Do you know we dug down like 3, 4, 5 feet, and we were still finding roots of this bindweed down there?
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure.
It's brutal.
Like, it just seems to come from who knows where, but it's a terrible plant.
It's not a good one.
Try to make it a good plant.
Mm-hmm. Well, Keith Hewitt, an old friend of Ken and my both, are both mutual friend. Keith Hewitt managed his in his yard by just never letting it sprout, like just kept cutting it back, and that goes back to the fact, like Ken's often said, and we've often said here on the show, that the foliage is the motor, and that's what's creating all the energy to build the plant up. And if you cut that motor off all the time and just keep it from happening, you will suppress it eventually.
Is that a promise, Don? Is that a promise?
Well, yeah.
It's a promise that it'll work if you keep at it. I'm not going to promise I'm coming over to do it for you.
It could take about 350 years, apparently, of consistent weeding.
Wow.
But, you got to be consistent.
Yeah.
I guess I just got to keep pulling then. That's the only thing that's going to...
That's all you can do.
Yeah.
I even think that some of the poisonous stuff that I put on it doesn't help it.
No, it's a tough one.
It seems to be almost non-affected by sprays.
Yeah,
for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. So okay.
Thank you, dear.
A lot, guys.
Appreciate the call.
I missed you guys last Saturday.
Yeah, we did. We missed being on the air for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Have a great week.
Take care.
Yeah. Thank you. Yep.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Eddie.
And I didn't quite hear that, Grinder. Yep. Oh, my email. There's 2 emails, the one that they mention all the time on the show, but I think the best one right now, because I'm still having trouble with the one, is dburnett@thegardenexpert.com. dburnett@thegardenexpert.com. Okay, there we go. We're going to, I think we're going to take a break right now because we're just about to that time, and we got one more break before the end of the show. We invite your calls when we come back after this short break. Okay, going back to the backlash on this Sansevieria Dracaena issue, right? I don't know if it interests most people, but for me, it really does interest me because we love our plant names. We love enjoying plants. I've got so many different Sansevierias, and I have a few different Dracaenas. So I'm going to wait till they bloom and really, really take a note of the bloom form. But some of them, it's okay. Some responses stated that using this very floral terms that had little or nothing to do with gardening, Others went a more logical route, pointing out that there are no similarities between Sansevieria and Dracaena once you put the microscope away.
Right.
They look different. They have very different care needs, and even their uses and benefits are different. There's been controversy with this change. There's really quite something. This will likely remain a hotly debated decision for years to come, and this may be one of those plants where different classification systems will maintain different botanical names. Such things are increasingly common and can prove frustrating for nurseries and other sellers and information sites that may forget when a plant has multiple active botanical names at once. Okay, anyway,
there you go.
As it goes back to that Orinia alyssum thing. And this is exactly what happened to me. And I was still at our Burnett's on Ethel Street, still there. And a person came in. I was suggesting some things, and I was looking up alyssum, Saxatol compactum, in the perennial book.
Yeah.
And I'm looking away. I couldn't find it. Where is alyssum? Wasn't there.
Nope. Gone.
And find out that they changed it to Orinia. So this can be complicated. This can be not a good thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, we won't further on that one. That one, carry on. What I will talk about a little bit here before, and we do invite your calls. Still, we got some time for calls yet on the air here. I'm cleaning out my office, Ken.
Yep.
Because we had that hot water leak, a hot water tank leak, and it leaked into my office. So we've lifted the carpet, cleaned that all up, got rid of the moisture. And we got the carpet back down. We had the carpet cleaners in yesterday. I got everything in my office after 40 years of collecting stuff in my office.
You're purging.
I'm purging. Well,
at the same
not
time.
Purged yet. Everything's still outside the office. It's what goes back in.
Oh, yeah.
And some of the things I'm finding, though, are fascinating. I've posted a couple of them on Facebook. Old Burnett ads. Old materials that, you remember we had those wheelbarrows?
Yeah.
We got them in from China.
Were those aluminum ones?
No, I'm talking about the red ones we got in from China. Through the Greenleaf import company, we brought those in from China.
Yep.
And it was early in the China thing. Now China, everything comes from China practically. But in those days, it was a big deal for us to bring in. I think we brought in 100 wheelbarrows from China.
Yep.
And but the problem was they came in all in a box, right? But there was no instructions.
Oh.
So I had to make the instructions, and I wrote it out on one of our letterheads, the instructions, and I found that, so I've posted that on Facebook.
It's
just
funny.
fascinating. The other thing I'm finding too is old gardening periodicals from the 30s, and some from the early part of the century, 1914, 1915, some of these things. And I love that because there were active people gardening back then that were just as smart as we are.
Oh yeah.
They may not have had the resources we have now today, but they were just as smart.
Oh yeah.
And they really have a lot to offer that might get lost in time because we lose it because I've got some horticultural books from 1904, a whole series of them that and of course we look at these things that should we dump them, should we get rid of them, should we sell them, should we whatever. I think the books are all coming back in, even though I don't use the reference books as much as I used to.
There's a lot more information in the books than there is on the internet.
Yeah.
And you would think it would be the other way around, but I've I every time I pick up a gardening book of some sort or a plant book and I start going through it, and it just blows my mind at all the different things. And a lot of that stuff you can't find it on the internet. It's just not there because it exists in books, and that's where it is. And if you don't have the books, you don't have the information, and it's as simple as that.
So there, you've settled my discussion I'm having with Donna as to what goes back into the office.
Yeah, it's all got to stay.
Everything's going back.
Everything stays.
Everything's going back in. Oh, my goodness. I hope she's not listening. Donna, I hope you're not listening to this. But anyway, that's exactly what we're probably ending up doing. But I'll have it organized. I'm going to label, my shelves where all the books are. I'm going to have a label of these are mushroom books, these are propagation books, these are disease books, these are, blah, blah, blah.
Yep, it's good stuff.
We have Bruce joining us. Good morning, Bruce.
Good morning.
Good
How are you guys doing?
We're
Good,
well,
thanks,
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we're so sad to hear the news about the fires up there. So I'm in Victoria. So, yeah, very sad.
Yeah, it is. It's a time we're going through right now, and it's serious. I know on the Thursday night when I looked across the lake, last Thursday night, a week ago Thursday, I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe what was going on.
I saw it on TV, and I couldn't believe it. Yeah,
very serious.
Anyway, I was having a question about, I don't know whether you can help. I'm trying to get some tomato seeds from a plant that I got this year, and I'm trying to get the seeds out so I can use them for next year. And all they do is go with, of course, I got that big mushy gelatinous texture, and I thought, well, I'll see if I could dry it out, and then they went all completely hard. Now I can't get the seeds out. Do you have any tips about?
Well, what I do, you know that material that they use in ovens. It's a I forget what it's called.
An oven cleaner?
No, it's like a paper, but you can use it.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, parchment or something like that. I forget what they call it. You get a piece of that. And you smear the tomato pulp onto that. That includes the seeds and everything. And then let it dry. And then you get a little pick of some sort, like a dental pick. And just pick the seeds out. It's a little bit tedious, but it works, and that's what I do.
Oh, good. Well, maybe that's better than what I've been doing anyway.
Well, I remember my dad, he used to save his tomato seeds from year to year. And I remember him distinctly sitting in the outside the building there at the greenhouse, and him with his tomatoes just mushing them away and spreading. He'd spread them out on newspaper, but I think spreading them out on that parchment paper would be a better bet.
Okay. Thanks for your help.
Well, thank you, sir. We appreciate your call.
Yeah, thanks for calling.
Bye.
Yeah, bye, Bruce.
Bye.
So we're getting very close to the end of the show here, and we appreciate all that contribution today to the show. That's always important to us to have people call in because, well, Ken and I can rap on forever about gardening because we're both passionate about it. However, it's always nice to hear from you folks, and we appreciate that contribution very much.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to dry some more fruit today. We're going to dry some grapes. We're going to make some raisins. And we are going to do that on, hopefully, Ken's going to take a little bit of a video today, and we'll do that on his YouTube channel. And you can look up Grower Coach and check out his YouTube channel. I've done that several times, and he's done a great job. We appreciate that contribution to the gardening community. And getting quite a few followers on that, too.
Oh, yes. Yeah. It's doing very well. I really do appreciate that as well. That really helps to grow. And anytime anybody can share those with somebody, that's just a fabulous thing. It really helps. That also helps the channel grow and become a little more popular. But, and in your grapes, particularly, Don, they have been pretty amazing. That last video we did was just before just before harvest. Man.
Well, we're going to
do
one today, Ken, before the birds get at them, because I'm going to do one last run of raisins, and that has worked out really, really well. Want to remind people that the 2024 Okanagan Historical Society branch, Kelowna branch, has its calendar out, and if you're interested in that, just give them a call. Bob Hayes, 250-763-8859. And he will help you out with getting a hold of one of the calendars. And also, don't forget, we are trying to plan a trip to the Northwest Flower and Garden Show next February. So you want to phone Sun Fun Tours, 250-763-6133, and see what you can do there. They will give you it's about $7.99 per person, double occupancy, which is a good buy when you think of what you're getting for it. So we're looking forward to that. We are now going to start our garden tips because that's what we do at the end of each show and the beginning of each show. That is tradition on the garden show. My tip of the week is my tip of the week, with cooler temperatures around the corner, it'll be a good time to do some fall gardening, including transplanting existing plants and installing new ones. And don't forget, as soon as those bulbs arrive on the shelf, get them in the ground. You don't have to wait and worry about them growing. Get them in the ground.
Yep.
They were in the ground to begin with. They might as well go back. So there you go. My plant of the week is the Aptenia cordifolia trailing red Livingston Daily, one of my favorite plants for hanging baskets and planters.
Very nice. I also have a tip of the week, and my tip of the week is that it is Iris month, of course, in August, and I always mention this every August, but this is a great time to get out and divide those big old plants that you have that might be looking tired or might be rough looking. Yes, you can cut them down to about 4 inches tall, cut them up into pieces. What I generally do is lay out a tarp, put the whole plant on there, pick out the best parts, and put it back. And generally, if you get a piece about 18 inches in diameter, it will really perform beautifully next year. Now, my tip of the week was all about liatris, and how liatris is a plant that when it finishes blooming, it provides seeds for birds. So birds love to eat liatris seeds for some reason, and it's a good one to grow. So there you go. Don't cut your liatris off too early. All right, that's my tips and plans for this week. Remember to check growercoach.com and Grower Coach on YouTube.
Right on. We just quickly do the Shigo quote of the week. All living things are bags of chemicals connected by electrical current. There you go. We'll see you next week.